Hello, my darling. I want to share with you today 60 symptoms of perimenopause. The thing is, when we think of perimenopause, which is the 10 years leading up to the menopause, we might think of hot flashes, we might think of night sweats, but we don't really know the ins and outs. And I guarantee if you are a woman that is of perimenopausal age, there'll be weird and wonderful symptoms going on for you that you never knew were perimenopause. So in the description of the video below, I'm going to link how you can get my free 60 symptoms checklist, so you can go through and tick which ones apply to you, so you know if you've had them. And then there's a tracker as well. So if you're thinking that you might need to go to the GP or a health practitioner, so that's the symptom checklist. So if you're thinking of going to, as I said, your GP, a nurse practitioner, or someone to discuss your perimenopause symptoms, journey, possible treatments, it's a really good idea to know what all the symptoms are and check off the ones that you have had and then track them as well. So you could do, for example, over a 3-week period, you could track all the symptoms that you have, so you can show that you're consistently having this and consistently having that. And then they can take you, I'm not going to say a bit seriously because that sounds condescending, but many GPs and doctors will tell you at 40, 41, 42, 43, you're too young, which is just not the case. If you consider that the average age of menopause in the UK is 51, and that you're likely to go through menopause and menopausal symptoms or perimenopause for 10 years before that, and it could be 15 years, and it could go 5 years either way, chances are, if you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you could start to go through these symptoms. If you know what they are and you recognize them and you can track them, first and foremost, you will have less stress around it. Because I thought when I first started going through perimenopause at the age of about probably 40, I'm going to say 42, 43, but the symptoms became a lot stronger by the time I was 45, 46. I literally thought I was going mad. There was no conversation around it. I couldn't find any information about it. And I was going to the doctor with weird things like itchy ear, tingling extremities, giving people shocks. And they were like looking at me like, what are you talking about? Okay. And it was only when I started doing my own research and I started to figure out that a lot of these symptoms, now I'm a life coach for women, which means that I speak to women all day, every day. So I have a unique access to women in midlife that I can ask them to, get their feedback and say, has this happened to you? Do you recognize this? So I don't want you to feel alone. If you are feeling like you're going through some symptoms, please, please, please download my tracker and my checklist. I'm going to go through some of those symptoms now so that you have a better understanding of what they could be and why they could be as well. Okay, so the first one is difficulty concentrating. If you walk into, and just general brain fog, if you walk into a room and you're like, why am I here? What was that? Or you take your medicine in the morning and then next thing you know, you're like, oh, did I take it? Did I not take it? That is a very typical symptom of perimenopause. It's caused by fluctuating hormones, and it's something that we all go through. Now, what can you do about it? Well, when it comes to difficulty concentrating or brain fog, I've put measures in place to keep me on track, like my watch buzzes and beeps when I've got appointments. I write everything down. I'm an old school, so everything goes in a planner. But it's just putting those systems in place to help you to stay on track that you wouldn't have needed 5-10 years ago. Okay. Weight gain is a big one that I get asked about a lot. Now, when we're younger, our estrogen is produced in our ovaries. Okay. When our ovaries stop producing estrogen, our estrogen comes from, it's stored in our fat cells, quite frankly. So what that means is you are likely to carry a little bit of extra weight, especially around your tummy. Please know that's quite normal. A lot of women feel like my body's getting distorted again, because obviously we go, as women, we go through several journeys in our lives. but it's quite normal and it's there for a very, very good reason. And it's just to help you to be able to produce that extra estrogen because your ovaries are no longer doing it. Okay. Now, does that mean that you are going to gain a dress size or whatever and that's just that? No, it doesn't. But it is a natural process that happens for a reason, because your body's trying to keep the estrogen production going. Obviously, we can talk at a later date about what you can do with your diet and exercise to help you. Okay. One of the things I wasn't prepared for was feeling dead inside, just feeling like I'd gone from this extremely passionate and kind of excitable woman to a bit meh. And I just wasn't bothered about things that I used to be really, really bothered about. I just felt like there's been a light that had switched off. And again, this is all due to a hormone fluctuation. It can and it does come back. All right. So that's the good news on that one. It's not like you go dead inside and that's it. I went down the HRT route and it made a huge, huge difference to me. But I also am more aware of the nutrition and supplements and all that stuff, which, I did a video before on supplements, but we're going to be talking about nutrition as well in a different video. Bloating. A lot of this can be due to our inability to process or to deal with sugar effectively in the perimenopause. We can often, if you've been using sugar, especially to reward yourself or de-stress, because we can use it for that, it instantly picks up our moods. Chances are you may have something that, insulin that's not working as well. It's kind of fatigued, it's tired. So what then happens is your body tries to deal with it all. Now, in your gut, it can often mean that if your kind of gut is generally off balance, then you are likely to end up with bloated symptoms because everything is just slightly out of whack. Also, heart palpitations can be caused by the same reason, because if you take not excessive amounts of sugar, but quite a lot of sugar in your diet, if your insulin isn't working properly, what it then tries to do is it starts your heart racing to signal you to kind of run and burn off the extra sugar, because the insulin's not being able to do that, if that makes sense. So that's where kind of heart palpitations come in. Also, the fact that you may not be sleeping properly at nighttime. If you're frequently waking up at nighttime, that might also lead to heart palpitations, because the stress on your body and not feeling okay. Plus, night sweats and hot flashes in general will get your heart racing as well. And she says, this is going to sound really bad, isn't it? But also, you might suddenly have anxious thoughts or anxious moments, shall we say, about things that you never used to have that about before. So, for example, you may suddenly be wary of driving at night and just not want to drive at night on your own anymore, or perhaps going into a new social situation or with a group of people you don't know very well at a party just fills you with dread. Again, that is a side effect of perimenopause. Okay. So anyway, generally, going back to the digestive, bloating, diarrhea, digestive problems in general are very common. We have to be really, really super careful about our diet and adding good bacteria back into our tummies. So things like, you can take a probiotic. The only problem with probiotics is they're not all created equal. There are tests that you can do that tell you what kind of probiotic you should take. You can do them at home. They're not that cheap. I've never done one, so I don't know how reliable they are, but they have good reviews on them. But even just being aware of adding things into your diet like Greek yogurt, not Greek style yogurt, actually Greek yogurt can help. And any kind of fermented food, so anything like sauerkraut, kimchi, those kind of those kind of fermented foods that you might keep in the fridge, they are very good for you at this point as well. And then we get onto the urinary problems. Now, the urinary problems, I have to say, it's something at the beginning that I was really ashamed of or really embarrassed about. Now it's like I know why it's there, where it comes from. It's all okay. But you may have frequent urination. You may need to pee more often in the night than you ever did, and you might also get some incontinence, like stress incontinence. This in some ways is because when our estrogen starts to decline, we may have vaginal atrophy, we may have a thinning of the uterus lining. It all kind of just goes a little bit down there, and also the pelvic floor. So that whole kind of region might just become a little bit less firm. Now, do you know that muscle that you use to stop peeing? And we used to call them Kegel exercises back in the day, but you can actually strengthen it again and help yourself by doing those exercises. Like as long, as if you were going to stop peeing and then let it go and then contract and let it go. If you want to supersize that activity, you can actually bounce up and down on one of those little mini trampolines. If your kids have got a trampoline in the garden, go bounce on that. And what it helps is just to tighten everything back up again, and teaches you how to quite quickly sort, like if you feel like you're going to have incontinence, it helps you to be less likely to in a place that you wouldn't want to. And I think it's really important to know that it's massively normal at that point in our lives to feel like we've got stress incontinence. But it's one of those unpleasant things that you just think about peeing and you might not make it to the bathroom in time. There are things that you can do about that. I mean, obviously you've seen, there are almost like sanitary towels that you can wear, but they're not always very comfortable. But they have designed even some of the period knickers. I don't know if you've seen them, the menstrual knickers, the ones that are full how do you call it? Full sized, and the strip goes all the way round. You could also use those if you're out and about and you just wanted to double protect yourself. And it's, as I said, it's a natural side effect of the estrogen not being in our bodies anymore. And it's kind of as it is. There's not much you can do about it, apart from try strengthening that mechanism inside your body to make sure that you don't need the loo and go for a bit of a pee when you don't want to. Okay. The reason that you might wake up in the night and need more of a pee is because your blood sugar drops. And one of the best ways to combat that one is to have a small protein snack before you go to bed. So something along the lines of peanut butter on celery, cheese and crackers, hummus and carrots, something like that. And you'll find that if you have a small portion of protein before you go to bed, you may need to urinate less during the night. Okay. We've covered the irregular heartbeat and heart palpitations and memory lapse, anxiety. Depression is also an issue, or can be an issue in perimenopause. For some women, it's the changing identity of their bodies again. It could be the lack of self, of just feeling like yourself. It could be your low libido, your sex drive could be on its knees. And so for some women, it's the feelings of irritation and irritability and just kind of general kind of stay away from me might mean that there's a certain tension between them and their partner, especially when you couple that with a low sex drive. And so the best thing that you can do is to really start having that conversation with your partner, explaining the changes that are happening in your body. They're not permanent. Okay. And there are things that you can do, and we'll be talking about them in this series quite a lot. HRT is one, supplements is another, lifestyle plays a huge role in this. But the more you discuss it with your partner and the more you let them in on it, the less likely they are to feel like it's due to them or you not wanting to be around them anymore. Periods, right. You could, in the perimenopause, have completely regular periods. Okay. not necessarily are your periods going to change. Okay, they could be every 28 days as they were. Okay, they could also be a lot lighter than they were or a lot heavier than they were. You could have spotting in between your periods. You could have just longer menstrual cycles, shorter menstrual cycles. In fact, just irregular periods in general. If your doctor's saying to you that the period and not having, because menopause, as in the day of menopause, is 1 year since you had your last period. Okay. So if your doctor's saying, but are your periods regular? Yes, therefore you don't have perimenopause. That's not the case. I've listed on the tracker. I don't know if you can see this. Is it going to be backwards? No, here it is. So you could have longer menstrual cycle, shorter, spotting, light periods, heavy periods, changes in menstrual flow, irregular periods. That's all quite normal in perimenopause, okay? And it is not the only determinant of whether you're in perimenopause or not, okay? Headaches and migraine, again, very common. Vaginal dryness is a bit of an issue because, yes, in terms of sexually, I would recommend using a lube. There are pessaries as well that you can get. There are estrogen pessaries, and you could try one of those. But it's also just when you go to wipe yourself after you've been to the loo, it can get very sore. So you may want to talk to your doctor about a topical estrogen. Itchy ears, like the urge to scratch your ear. I don't know why. It's a perimenopausal symptom, I'm not going to lie, but so many women that I've talked to are going, oh my God, my ears started itching. Gas as well, flatulence, allergies. You may suddenly be allergic because the histamine, as well as having problems with insulin, we also can be develop a histamine intolerance as well, which means that we can start becoming allergic to things that we never allergic to before. Dizzy spells, vertigo kind of dizzy spells, mood swings are a given. Like 1 minute you're like, la, 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 and then it's like this demon comes out. What you have to understand about your hormones is you have 3 hormones that are interacting with each other during the perimenopause: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. The thing about estrogen is it goes up and down like this. Testosterone goes down on a level, so it always goes down, and it goes down gradually. Estrogen is doing this on top of it, and sometimes the gap is too big and we're in estrogen dominance, and the mood swings are just all over the place. Okay. Also your hair, because the estrogen is kind of like responsible for us feeling young and feminine and fresh and all that kind of stuff. And so you could have thinning hair or hair loss. Okay. And that's something I would actually discuss it with your hairdresser. Don't go down the route of rosemary oil or things like that before you discuss it with your hairdresser, and see. Sometimes you can style your hair so it looks thicker, but it generally does get a bit thinner at this time. Obviously, I discussed decreased libido, breast soreness. So you could feel almost, the premenstrual boobs that you get. It can almost feel like that again, just kind of sore and very tender. Burning mouth. It's another symptom. And your joints in general. So you could have joint pain, muscle tension, muscle fatigue, muscle aches, just a feeling of like, oh. And this is why exercise is supremely important during the perimenopause. Again, that's a video for another day, but really, really important. As I mentioned, electric shocks. That was one I never associated with anything. And the doctors really didn't care, but I was literally on everything and everyone. Gum problems. So you can feel like your teeth are a bit loose. Again, that's another symptom. Tingling extremities. So if you get almost pins and needles type thing in your hands and your feet, another symptom. Dry eyes. And dry eyes is actually quite a common one, and you can just get the lubricating eye drops. But again, if you didn't know it was a symptom, it might stress you out. As I said, disrupted sleep is quite common with the night sweats, with the getting hot, getting cold. So you can have night sweats, but you can also have cold flashes. Seriously, I would make sure that you have everything that's pointing at you that you could, in terms of having a fan at your side of the bed. But consider having two separate duvets for you and your whoever you sleep with, because I didn't mean that in a rude way, but whoever you sleep with, because you'll be like putting a duvet on or off. My ideal that I've got to is kind of one leg out, quite warm, quite snuggly, but then one leg out and the kind of lower half of another leg. And that's the way I sleep. But I also have a fan next to my bed. I also have a mini radiator next to my bed because I don't know which one I'm going to be. What I would say is try and make sure that you're always wearing cotton or bamboo pajamas, and be prepared to change your bedding quite regularly, because it's important that you feel fresh, that you feel nice. Like, you know, that feeling when you get into bed and it's like, oh, it's new bedding day. You need to do that one quite a lot, because it's important that you feel good during this period. Okay. And any little thing that you can do that will help you, I seriously recommend doing. Okay. What else? Body odor changes. The discharge that you get, vaginal discharge that you get, can change dramatically in smell. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have a yeast infection or cystitis or anything else going on. It can just be perimenopause. But if in doubt, have it checked. But you also may find that your natural body odor under your arms also changes. Okay? Perfectly normal. Don't worry. In fact, while we're talking about changes, you can you can have phantom smells as well, like smell burning or smell something that's not there. I go around the house going, "Can anybody smell that?" And everyone's looking at me like, "What are you talking about?" Okay. Irritability, which we know, panic disorder or panicking, which we talked about, osteoporosis. So kind of just general knee problems. These are the big ones, but just be really aware. And again, the more you can reduce sugar in your diet, because sugar produces inflammation and it's not great. And also, you know, if we're very stressed, then we end up with cortisol being overproduced in our bodies, which we know is bad for our tummies and what have you. But also, it steals from the progesterone production, which then may lead you to be an estrogen dominance, which then causes the headaches and the cramping and everything else. So be really aware of sugars and just inflammation in your body in general. We've done hot flashes, cold flashes, night sweats. Brittle nails is another one. Again, it goes along with the thinning hair, I'm afraid. This one is a weird one. Itchy skin, and we call it formication. Not to be confused with the one that's with an N, but formication, where your skin just itches all over. I used to get it especially on my legs at night time. I'd be trying to sleep and my legs would just itch and itch and itch. Tinnitus, so ringing in the ear. And sudden high cholesterol can also be a symptom. So you need to be aware of kind of the heart palpitations, all those kind of things, racing heart. And then, you know, make sure that you're looking after your diet and exercise, and also the sugar and everything else. But the point of this checklist and the point of the tracker is so that you can go to your medical professional and have a real conversation with them about the symptoms. The reality is that not necessarily your local GP has had up-to-date hormonal training. So you can always go and ask to speak to a nurse practitioner, or speak to a doctor that's had the most recent, or is menopause sympathetic or perimenopause sympathetic in your practice. But I'll link this below, because at least if you're tracking your symptoms, you know you're not going mad, because that was what I thought. I literally thought I had early onset dementia because I couldn't remember anything and everything seemed to be falling apart. But when you know what's going on, you can then have a real conversation about it. And also reassure yourself that, you know, they are all symptoms of a natural stage in our lives. All right, my darlings, I hope that helps. Link below. I'll be doing more on perimenopause in the next few weeks. Any questions, please just email me, kate@kategrosvenor.com, or comment below, and I will do my best to get to all of your comments. Take care, and I'm going to speak to you soon. Bye.